In this video, we're taking a look at activity 314, while loops and if else structures, part 4D, which will be the last section that we have to complete on this activity. I do have the part 4C code up from last time, so I'm going to make sure that I've saved that part 4C program, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Save As, and within my file folders, I'm going to change this over to part 4D, hit Save, and go ahead and start to change over some of the information that I need. So part 4D, task description I can get rid of from last time, as well as a lot of the pseudocode, and the don't want to get rid of the all the task main, but I want to keep the beginning and ending braces for the task main. When I go into activity 314, they want us to go ahead and make a motor spin whenever a button is pressed and a second motor spin whenever a limit switch is pressed. So they say the button meaning the bump switch for the first motor, and whenever a limit switch is pressed, the behavior repeats. The two actions are independent. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this task description that they gave us, and I usually have my students write this in various ways, so I'm going to say utilize two separate if-else structures to make that happen. So I'm going to go ahead and end the task description, paste that in. Let me scroll back over to the left side, and I'm going to just grab a few places where I can just hit enter. That way that task description is a little bit more centered on our screen. All right, pseudocode. So we want the actions to repeat indefinitely. So we'll want to say we want to set up a while loop to repeat indefinitely. And then they want us to say that we want a button. So we'll want to say this, just they go through. If one button gets pressed, it controls one motor. If the other one gets pressed, it controls the other one, and the two actions are independent. So if the bump switch is pressed, we'll say start the left motor going forward at full power, and then so else we'll say if the bump switch isn't pressed, stop the left motor. If the limit switch is pressed, start the right motor going forward at full power. And then if the limit switch isn't pressed, stop the right motor. So that's really what we have going on. So now I can start going through and looking at writing my program from it. So while 1 equals 1, and I need to make sure I put two sets of braces in for my while loop. And to get us started, I might go ahead and highlight this and say fix formatting, so that way we can get this in there properly. So I'm gonna make a little bit more room here as I scroll down. And here within this, I'm gonna go ahead and they say to write using two separate if-else structures. So if sensor value of, we said the bump switch first, is equal to 1, we'll need two braces for our if condition, and we'll say start motor left motor going forward at full speed, else stop the left motor. Then if the sensor value of the limit switch is equal to 1, Then we want to start motor, right motor going at 127. Else, we want to stop motor, right motor. While loop ends here, so again, we can go ahead and we can start grabbing some of our pseudocode. So let's go ahead and put in for our commenting. So we repeat it indefinitely if the bump switch is pressed. So that's where we've got this condition set up. Start the left motor going forward at full power. And then if the bump switch isn't pressed, so I'll grab this line. That'll be for our else. We'll stop the left motor. If the limit switch is pressed, start the right motor going forward at full power. If it's not pressed, then we'll stop the right motor. And we've done that with two separate if-else structures. Okay, let's compile the program. Download the robot. We'll see what behaviors we get. Hit start button. So here it's checking the conditions. So if I press the bump switch, there's my left motor turning. If I let go of it, it turns off. If I press the limit switch, the other motor turns on. If I let go of it, it turns off. If I press both of them at the same time, they both turn on. If I let go at the same time, they both turn off. And that is our program as noted by the task description. So we want to go through and have the behavior repeat indefinitely and the two actions being independent. And there we go. So they do not rely on each other, and they stop and everything at the appropriate times whenever you are not getting a sensor reading from the limit switch or the bump switch. So this video finishes up activity 314, while loops and if-else structures, and finishes up the last section needed for the code. Hope you learned a lot from this. This is definitely one of those activities that kind of challenges you to have a little bit more understanding and watch details. So as you move forward throughout this lesson 3.1 machine control kind of journey. So that's kind of just a lot of the things needed to kind of help you with creating more complex programs, but also to give you more flexibility in how you create programs.